and patient engagement. And Kate is going to be answering any of your questions in the chat session. So now I'm going to, and my story starts here. Like everyone, I'm sure watching this presentation has a story. And my story started 28 years ago. I was diagnosed with celiac disease. But before I was diagnosed, I went through 23 doctors and an 8-year journey. I was married and had one daughter. And then what happened was I went on a business trip and unfortunately got a parasite. When the doctors treated me for the parasite, my bloating, gas, abdominal pain, diarrhea never went away. I kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. I had tingling and numbness in my hands and feet, joint pain, and started losing weight. But the doctor said I was fine. I got pregnant. And unfortunately, 3/4 of the way through that pregnancy, I really started with this unexplained diarrhea again. And 2 weeks before my due date, I had a full-term stillborn child due to something called intrauterine growth retardation, which we now know is a symptom of undiagnosed celiac disease. The doctors told me to go home. I would be okay. I could get pregnant again. So I did, and I had 3 miscarriages. And then I got pregnant for the 5th time. And what you're seeing in this picture is my daughter, Linnea. She was born premature, again, because of my undiagnosed celiac disease. I was told that I had to be on bed rest for 2 months and then had an emergency C-section. And she was born at 2 pounds because of the fact that I was so malnourished. But as she started to grow and thrive, I actually started losing more weight and more weight. And I went from doctor to doctor to doctor until finally the family vet was the one who recommended that I got tested for celiac disease. Yes, you might be asking, the family vet, like, why the family vet? Well, the family vet said that sometimes dogs have trouble with gluten. And since I was on a high carbohydrate diet, maybe that was what was affecting me. So I went to the gastroenterologist, that's the tummy doctor, and he was doctor number 23. And he told me that I was too tall, that I shouldn't be tested for celiac disease. So I asked him what the test was, and he said it was a blood test. And I said, you've done every other test. Please test me for celiac disease. Here's my arm. He did. And sure enough, I had the antibodies. Then I went back in for the endoscopy. And at that point in time, he told me that, yes, I had celiac. It was a rare disease of childhood, and that I needed to quit my job. I needed to never eat out. And it would be a good idea for me to make sure that I joined a support group. So that started my journey to founding Beyond Celiac, because not only did I have a self-initiated diagnosis, right, but it was now I was told to self-manage the disease. And you can see this causes a significant impact on your psychosocial well-being. But I thought with this presentation, what I do was talk about how far we have come, because 28 years ago is a long time. Yes. Hello. So I will continue on from where I started, talking a little bit about, sorry for all these technical difficulties, that the landscape of the gluten-free world has changed immensely since 2003, when I founded Beyond Celiac. At that time, the idea of a festival like this one would have really been the stuff of dreams, right? The fact that so many people would be in the same virtual space at the same time, driven by the motivation for gluten-free products and, products to support people with both celiac disease and gluten sensitivity would have been unimaginable. And I want to share with you how far we have come, right? With this pandemic, it's so important that we know that our glass is half full and what life is like now, and then what life could be in the future. So let's share the journey together. So in 2003, and I hope everybody can see these slides, there were no FDA regulations for gluten-free labeling. And we had to be expert label readers. We spent our time going into the grocery store, and it took us hours reading labels. At the time, only 3% of the people with celiac disease were properly diagnosed. And we ordered our food sometimes even from Canada. So envision this: you would go to a support group meeting, and then you'd order food, you'd place an order with your support group, and then you would share your food at the next support group meeting or have the food ordered directly to your house. Sometimes some of the health food stores did carry gluten-free foods, but guess what? They were very, very expensive. A pound of pasta cost $9 a pound. So in 2003, I really decided that we needed more. We needed more awareness, more education, more safe gluten-free options, right? We needed to be able to live life better. And I have to say we've made progress. And we've made progress with all of us together. We've made progress because of all of you. So let's look at this progress. We launched.
The slides still aren't showing up, and people are saying that in the comments.
Well, for everybody who started this presentation with me, this is Linnea. I'm sorry you didn't get to see her, but you got to hear my story, so I'm not going to repeat that story. I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties, but I also want you to know Linnea is healthy and well. Here is the slide that I talked about, the continuation of burdens of the disease, right? How this is both a self-initiated diagnosis and a self-managed disease. Started to talk a little bit about how far we came. We talked about the FDA, the fact that only 3% of the people with celiac disease were diagnosed. And here, I love this picture, is how we ordered our food in bulk. We shared our food with our fellow people with celiac disease and gluten sensitivity at support group meetings. And the food was very expensive. As I said, it was almost $9 for a pound of pasta. You could buy fish or meat for that. So we need more awareness, more education, more safe gluten-free options. And as I said, we have made this progress because all of you, we're in this together. So if we take a journey back in time to how we made this progress, it all started with my meeting Heidi Collins. Heidi Collins was a newscaster on CNN, and she actually had almost an identical story to mine. And having a newscaster who spoke nationwide about her journey and was really our spokesperson at the time. We will talk a little bit later on about our gluten-free cooking sprees. It was so helpful having her talk about the fact that she could not eat without fear, that when she got up in the morning to the time she went to bed, she had to think about every bite of food that went into her mouth. We also I was lucky to serve as a regular contributor to WebMD. And then we developed a symptom checklist to help the undiagnosed and the misdiagnosed. And that symptom checklist was based on hearing, again, from all of you in the community, right? You wanted a tool to be able to go in and ask your doctor to test you for celiac disease. Just like me, remember the doctor said, no, you're too tall. We wanted to create this tool so that you could help to educate the doctor while the doctor was also testing you. And then we needed a way to distribute this tool. So we created partnerships, and one of our partners were Quest Diagnostics. And through our partnership with Quest, we're able to increase diagnostic rates from 3% to 17% because their sales force went into doctors' offices around the country to educate the doctors about the signs and symptoms of celiac disease and also to distribute those symptom checklists. Now, here's a question for all of you. So then I talked to my family members, right? and nobody wants to get tested. Well, what we found out through some of our market research, that the leading barrier to getting tested for celiac disease was actually the gluten-free diet itself. So we created a campaign. It's called the Talk, Tell, Test campaign. And you should go on to on Beyond Celiac's website. You'll find it. It's a family testing campaign. And it will actually teach you how to talk to your family members about getting diagnosed for celiac disease. And it gives you the words, it tells you how to be very impactful, but not to really keep asking them again and again. It's really a one-time, very important conversation. And then we went on to accessibility, affordability, and safety of gluten-free products. I talked about these gluten-free cooking sprees. Well, way back in the dark ages, we actually partnered doctors and chefs together to help us mainstream gluten-free products. We had the chefs go through chef training school, and we had the doctors go through continuing medical education. And it was really a fun event where we actually had them have a cook-off, and we had the hospitals compete against each other. And then we had thousands of people attend, not only trying their delicious food that the chefs and the doctors were making, but also trying products from our vendors, just as we're here today at Nourished. And we brought in partners like Whole Foods and Walmart and Wegmans and ShopRite, you name it, to really help us with accessibility, affordability, and safety of gluten-free products. Next, we took on the challenge of working with the FDA to set industry standards for gluten-free labeling. And believe me, this was a group effort. The support groups all came together with the scientists, some of the lead scientists, for us to make sure that we had these FDA industry standards. And one fun story that I'd like to share with everyone about making progress towards accessibility, affordability, and safety of gluten-free products is my journey with Anheuser-Busch to develop the first gluten-free beer. It was quite a lot of fun when the brewmaster from Anheuser-Busch called me up and said, "My best friend has celiac disease and he can't drink beer. Do you think there is a need for gluten-free beer?" And I said, "Yes, there is a need. Fly me to St. Louis and let's talk about it." And that was the beginning of a wonderful partnership. We actually launched the first sorghum-based gluten-free beer. It went mainstream, right? It was the first product in the United States that had national distribution by a mainstream company like Anheuser-Busch. And pizza followed soon thereafter. So then we turned our sights to research. And again, it was asking all of you, the voice of the patient, to get involved. We were working with the FDA. I was actually presenting at a workshop called the Great 3 Workshop. And the FDA asked me to talk to all of our community, right, and represent the patient's voice so that the scientists could understand what happens when all of you were glutened, right? This word of what happens when you get glutened. And in 2 hours, we had 900 full responses from the community telling us that they had brain fog, GI issues, tingling in their fingers and toes. Sometimes it took a few minutes to get sick. Sometimes it took a couple hours. Sometimes it lasted all their symptoms lasted for a day, but sometimes it lasted for weeks. And we helped to change the way researchers understood the immune system's response in celiac disease. We now know there's something called cytokine involvement. And that, again, is because all of you. And then in 2015, we held a research summit where we brought together researchers, the government, industry, physicians to discuss celiac disease. Importantly, what was the key ingredient here? It was patients and caregivers who told their stories about being equal partners in this discussion and helping the doctors and researchers understand what was important to all of you, to the patient community. And here you're seeing, you'll see the psychosocial impacts. It's just you get a visual representation of some of the work that we did and how having celiac disease really affects every aspect of your life. It's called a graphic recording. And then in 2019, we held a second summit. So we wanted to understand from the community, again, we brought together the doctors, the researchers, the FDA, and insurance companies to talk about what are the barriers to getting treatments and a cure to the marketplace. And we brought in, we brought in caregivers, we brought in people with celiac disease. They told us their experiences. They shared, if they'd been in a clinical trial, they shared their experiences so that together we could advance research. So look at how far we've come, right? Now we're here in 2020. Gluten-free food is much more widely available. So if you're newly diagnosed, this just didn't happen overnight, right? There was a lot of work that made sure that we had gluten-free foods stocked on the grocery shelves. And, now we're also we're hearing that research is a little mixed on this, but almost 50% of people with celiac disease are currently diagnosed. That's really good news. We've made some great progress. And guess what? There are treatments in drug development pipeline that could either replace or go alongside the gluten-free diet. So we're going to have more options. So some people may choose to stay on the gluten-free diet, but isn't it great that we're going to have more options? Because the gluten-free diet is still burdensome. I love this picture, right? Look at this woman. She says, from the minute I wake up, just like Heidi Collins, to the time I go to bed, I have to think about every bite of food that goes into my mouth. I have to think about every meal, every snack. And, wouldn't it be nice to have a choice? So I really think to lessen the burden of the gluten-free diet, we do want to be able to eat without fear. Just think about when we go into a restaurant, when we're able to go into a restaurant, when our kids are going to birthday parties, and when students are going to college, right? We want them to be able to pick the university based on the ability on their program and not the ability to be fed, right? That's really important. And other diseases, we know have interventions, right? And we need more options. So we want to talk to you a little bit more about that. But when we're looking at how we need these options, what the key ingredient is to keep research moving forward is you. You are always the key ingredient in all of the work that we do. It really is the secret to living beyond celiac disease. I love this quote by Dr. Janet Woodcock. She's the director of the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research at the FDA. Patient-focused drug development is important. We need the voice of the patient at all stages of drug development. And it's really important for researchers of all kinds, not just the ones creating new treatments, to understand what we, the patient, want and need. And at Beyond Celiac, we're working to make sure the voice of the patient is being heard, just as we talked about earlier, and understanding what is important to patients to help the pharmaceutical companies design treatments that meet those needs and design clinical trials that patients want to participate in. So let's look at the drug development pipeline. Drug development follows a set path, and all drugs have 3 phases of clinical trials before they can be approved and available to the public. More companies are interested in developing treatments for celiac disease than ever before. But clinical trials and all celiac disease research needs participants in order to be successful. This representation is showing you how many drugs right now are currently in each phase. So we have 4 therapies in phase 1, 4 in phase 2, and 1 therapy in phase 3. And if you want to know how you get involved, right? The question is, how can I participate? Clinical trials happen all over the US. Each trial has its own criteria for participants. You might qualify for one trial, but not another. Using our clinical trial finder, You can find trials you might qualify for that are close to you. If you're interested in participating, you can find out how to contact a site near you and learn more at trials.beyondceliac.org. Now is the time to be interested in research. There are actually 18 studies right now listed that are recruiting in the US right now. Or you can ask your doctor. Sometimes your doctor may know about trials that you might qualify for, and you can ask at your next appointment. And lastly, and you can follow us too. We sometimes post research opportunities on our social media. We know that there are many trials going on this fall, and we want to keep our community aware. So if you're interested in research, you can sign up for a research newsletter. But really, the most direct way to participate in research is to join Go Beyond Celiac, our patient database. And that's what we created with you, for you, in our 2015 Research Summit. Go Beyond Celiac is one of the easiest ways to directly contribute to research. This is our patient database designed, like I said, in collaboration for patients and families. It's a series of surveys that is designed to collect information that will help researchers better understand celiac disease. It's available online. You can go to the Apple and the Google apps. And if you go to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, you can download the app and you can access that, or you can access it at go.beyondceliac.org. And as a parent, when you sign up, you can answer the questions as if you were your child. So let's look a little bit more about what is this? What is Go Beyond Celiac? Well, they're surveys, and these surveys were designed, again, in collaborations with patients and families. We're hearing a theme here, right? Your involvement. They capture your whole celiac disease story. Just like I told my story, you'd be telling your story, including your life before, during, and after your celiac disease diagnosis. They include questions about your symptoms, how you feel with the gluten-free diet, and how celiac disease impacts you financially, socially, and emotionally. In April, we added 2 new surveys directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. One survey asks about how your behaviors have changed as a result of the pandemic. The other is for people who have been diagnosed with COVID-19 to collect information on how COVID-19 affects people with celiac disease specifically. And the surveys are designed to be filled out in the order that you'd like. You can start and stop at any time, and your data gets saved as you go. Questions are presented one at a time to make them easy and convenient, and each survey takes no more than 15 minutes to fill out. And here you can see an Insight tab. It shows you tips and links to our research news, highlighting new and interesting celiac disease research studies, and new insights are posted a few times per week. And let me tell you that our research news link is really wonderful. Amy Ratner, our news analyst, takes scientific news articles and she puts them into layperson's terms so that all of us can read it and understand the latest science. This Insight tab also shares back what we're learning at Go Beyond Celiac, so you can see how your answers compare to other people's. So you can understand, you can know that you're not alone, right? So are you feeling more anxious than usual? What are you feeling? What are your friends feeling and your colleagues and other people with celiac disease? And the data we're collecting in Go Beyond Celiac can lead to faster, more accurate diagnosis, better understanding of how celiac disease develops, and can accelerate research into treatments and eventually a cure. Join today and tell us your celiac disease story. The only way we're going to make progress is with your voice. So again, here we go back to this slide. How far have we come? The secret to living beyond celiac is you. What will life look like in 2030? Wouldn't it be great if we live in a world where people with celiac disease can live healthy lives, free from social stigma and fear of gluten exposure, a world beyond celiac? A cure is possible in our lifetime. The first person to never worry about celiac disease has already been born. And I hope you'll join us on Friday, October 23rd at our evening Beyond Celiac. It's going to be hosted by New York ABC 7 reporter Diana Rocco. We're going to have multiple musical performances. Marion Hill, Arturo Chacon Cruz, who's one of our spokespeople. We're going to have a gluten-free demo with Alana Vicino and discussions with our scientific team, Dr. Salvo Alessi, Dr. Ken Kilgore, and Dr. Alan Ehrlich, to learn more about scientific advancements. And of course, we're going to have the Ask the Experts section. So there's something for everyone, and it's all going to be for a great cause, and that's research for treatments and a cure for celiac disease and helping our community live life to the fullest. So I want to thank you so much for your time and attention today. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. You can visit our booth to sign up for our newsletter to find out more. You can share, go to our social media links. You can sign up for the newsletter, the research news feed, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We are so thankful to be with you and working together for curing celiac disease. Do we have a couple minutes here now for some questions and answers? Any questions coming in?
So we got one question during the chat that I answered about, can you go to your doctor to get tested? So we talked about that in the chat. There aren't any more questions at the moment, but we can give it another few seconds to see if people come through with anything. And I did, for everyone who's with us, I did put links to a bunch of different things that Alice was talking about, including the drug development pipeline, our clinical trial finder, Go Beyond Celiac, more information about our virtual gala. Those are all in the chat. And we will put a PDF version of these slides down below the presentation as well, so that you can see them.
Yep. And I thought I'd get, and please, again, if you have family members who don't want to get tested, I know this comes up all the time. I highly recommend that you go to our website and look at Family Talk. It could be so helpful to you to talk to your family members and could really help them, live healthier as well. And sometimes, as we all know, some people might have more of a gluten sensitivity and may not have celiac disease. We're all in this together, but there's many members of a family. Not everybody could have celiac disease. I know, just in my own family, my one daughter has a gene for celiac disease and the other daughter does not. So it's important. I'm hearing, do you have any advice for people who have family members who don't fully take celiac disease seriously? You know what? I do have advice, Sarah. So the name of our video is called Seriously Celiac. And that's really what it's all about. It's about making sure that your family members do take you seriously. What I would say to them is that it's, I know scientists don't agree with this, but it's like, I say it's toxic. It's like poison. So one particle of gluten sets off an autoimmune reaction. The body attacks itself, and this cross-contamination will set off actually one particle, right? That's just a pinhead will set off this immune reaction which causes inflammation in your body and actually can lead to long-term health consequences, such as, who wants to think about cancer, but can really be harmful. So that's what I'd recommend, and we do have some advice, again, on our website with the Seriously Celiac, the video series. But I would just have that conversation and let them know that your health is important and that you do not want to, you don't want to have long-term health consequences, because this one particle could actually cause you to have other health problems. And, it's just, it's the other thing is, if someone has somebody, they have to take your diet seriously. One of the other things I like to think about is, if somebody, and this isn't, if somebody has diabetes, nobody jokes around about, insulin, right? That is their treatment. That is their therapy. For us, the gluten-free diet is the best therapy and the best treatment we have now. So I also like them to think of this as it's a disease, it's a serious autoimmune disease, and the gluten-free diet has to be taken seriously. I hope that's helpful. Oh, thank you, stress-free, gluten-free. I really appreciate your feedback. We're here as a resource. We're here for you, together with you. So, if there's any other questions, anybody has anything else that they don't want to ask,
I did put a link to our.
Well, I encourage everyone to we're almost at our end, to continue to be hopeful, to live healthfully, to, please sign up for Go Beyond Celiac, and, and really share what you don't even have to participate in a clinical trial. It's just sharing this data and sharing knowledge. It really does help our scientists with advancing research. One of the areas that I'm very interested in as well is, this is not just a GI disease, right? It's a disease that affects the entire body. It's autoimmune. We have things like depression, anxiety, brain fog. The cognitive effects of getting gluten, they're real. And it's really important that everyone shares that with us, because when we speak loudly and we share this, we share this data, when you're going to the gastroenterologist, they may not be asking you those questions. You may be sharing that information with another doctor or no doctor at all. We know that after 4 years of diagnosis, if you've been diagnosed for 4 years, 25% of our community doesn't even go back to the doctor. So sign up for Go Beyond Celiac, and we look forward to working together with you to cure celiac disease. Thank you.